All right, welcome. Welcome to the EG4 Climate Solutions webinar. Excited to have everybody here on this Monday afternoon, maybe Monday morning, depending on where you're joining us from. We're 1:58 Central Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes. So please bear with us as we wait for the last attendee to be started, and then we will go ahead and kick it off at the start of the hour. Looks like we've got a pretty good number of people joining up here. Excited to see everybody coming in. Hey, glad to have you from Puerto Rico. Hey, Patrick. Dan, just trading some messages on LinkedIn. Good to see you. All right, 2 o'clock. Again, welcome everybody. Thanks to those that joined a little bit early. I'm sure we'll have a couple more stragglers join on today, but for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have some really good content that we want to go ahead and get through here. So want to give everybody the chance to have plenty of time to go through that. For those of you that haven't attended one of our webinars to date yet, haven't had the chance to meet me, my name is Dylan Rupp. I'm the Director of Marketing here at EG4. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, John Tostanowski, our Director of Sales. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about our EG4 Climate Solutions, some of the unique things that we can deliver with those products and some of the really interesting applications that they slot into. And frankly, especially if you're a customer of ours who's primarily been focused on energy and energy storage as the product that you offer to customers, these solutions really expand your opportunity to go and add additional value for these homeowners and expand your offerings so you can capture more business, win new customers, and even add a little bit of resiliency to your business by having, frankly, a product that everybody in the country likely has installed unless they're in very, very specific climate regions that don't require any kind of climate control for their homes. Before we get into the webinar, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items and the platform that we are on here today. So we do have the ability to go ahead and trade some messages amongst the audience here in a chat function. We'll have some team members who are in that chat function kind of monitoring things, answering questions as they do come up. However, if you do have specific questions that you want to get asked, I will ask that you use the questions tab, which is built into the webinar, and the webinar platform, and you should see it in the bottom right-hand corner of your window there to ask those questions. That's where our team is going to be focused on answering those questions. So as those come up, please do them there. I will also ask that as you're asking questions, try to keep it on topic as it relates to the webinar here. If you have specific design questions or specific inquiries for support about a system that you might have installed, we absolutely want to get those questions resolved and want to get you the answers that you need. However, this forum's a little difficult to answer those questions just because there's a lot of context and additional information that is necessary in order to give you the best answer. So if you're asking questions, again, I'll ask that you try to keep it on topic, keep it focused on EG4 Climate Solutions and about the product and the application cases. If you do have those specific questions, we have a couple of different resources that we can make available for you to reach out to us on, and please leverage those, and we do promise we will get you the answers that you want for those questions. That said, like I said, we're going to go for about an hour here today. At the end, we will take some time to answer any questions as they come up, any questions that we didn't have the chance to get to, or just questions we think were especially pertinent, and we will spend some time answering those in person. So if you have a question that you want to get answered, please feel free to stick around and make sure that we get that answered. That said, I'm going to jump right into the content here. So just a quick agenda. I'm going to start out talking a little bit about EG4, who we are. We'll talk a little bit about our specific climate solutions that we do have available today, really focusing on the hybrid solutions that we have. We'll jump into those application cases and how we really see these products fitting into your potential business offering and how you can leverage them. And then we'll get into some basic tips, tricks, things that we think are important for you to know as you do go and offer these solutions to your customer base. So for those of you that haven't had the chance to sit with us before, learn about EG4. EG4 is a Texas-based manufacturer of energy storage equipment, and we really started with a singular mission, and that was to make energy generation available for the everyday American. We've really focused our product line on being able to do that, and we've done that through a variety of means, bringing specific solution sets to market that maybe are more friendly for a DIY customer base, bringing products to market that fit into applications that we saw customers had a desire to implement these solutions in, but weren't being supported very effectively, like our off-grid solutions, and bringing some additional innovative technologies to market to really deliver that dream. And I really think that these climate solutions that we're going to talk about today really fit into that category, right? A very innovative solution, a solution that we really saw a need for that wasn't being addressed in the marketplace. And so we went and worked with some engineering firms that we have partnerships with to bring a solution to market that we think answers a lot of challenges that customers have as it relates to climate control and energy resiliency, and wanted to make those available at a price point that was affordable and with a solution set that could be easily deployed by a number of different individuals, not only HVAC technicians and registered HVAC installers. So actually getting into those solutions, the first product that we brought to market within this product category was our single zone hybrid mini split heat pump solutions. This is a product that we've had in the market for a couple of years now, and we've had thousands of these deployed across the country. Now, what makes these products unique here is embedded right in the name, and it's the hybrid capability of the solution set, meaning it is a multi-power source solution. And John, if you would just go ahead and hit the next slide there to bring up the graphic, we'll see some of that spelled out here. So this is a product, a climate solution that can take a variety of power in sources and use those power in sources to deliver that comfort for the individual's home. It can take direct PV power, and it has MPPTs built directly in with the ability to run directly off of that solar input to offer that climate control. It can take an AC power source, and depending on the unit size that you have there, it's compatible with either a 120 volt supply or a 240 volt supply to run directly off of utility power, or potentially, as it were, the AC output of an energy storage system. The units will also efficiently take both power sources as they're available and blend the two in kind of a hybrid operation mode, so you are able to offset how much you are using from the utility if you're trying to save money, or your energy storage system, as that is a finite resource, especially in a grid down situation. Now, as I mentioned, these are single zone units, and they're offered in two different unit sizes, a 12,000 BTU and a 24,000 BTU model. These really supply a targeted climate control for a single zone within the customer's home or property. So you are going to leverage the single zone units to cool a very specific space. The rest of that property not being supported would be controlled by, or I'm sorry, would be cooled or heated by some alternate power source. And then kind of getting ahead of myself there with that last comment, these units are, as I mentioned, hybrid heat pump mini split. So they offer both heating and cooling capabilities, and do so at an incredibly high efficiency and a pretty wide temperature range. So these will go ahead and heat down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So even if you're in a fairly far north climate region, these units will still be able to provide you some heating comfort in all but the most extreme circumstances, well below freezing. And then certainly on the cooling aspect of things, these units are designed to be able to cool in just about any climate zone that we're going to come across here in North America, with the ability to cool at temperatures up to 131 degrees Fahrenheit. So a very robust unit, wide operating temperature, and able to deliver that heating or cooling at very high efficiencies. And we'll see a little bit more about efficiencies in just a moment. So as I talk about SEER and COP, don't worry if you don't know what those terms mean. We will define them in a few slides here. Now, as of last week, we did bring our multi-zone hybrid mini splits to market. Really excited about this product. Has a lot of the same benefits and features as that single zone mini split. However, it offers the ability, as you probably were able to guess from the name, go ahead and support multiple zones within a customer's home. If you would hit it one more time for me, John. Thank you, sir. Now, what that does is truly unlocks whole home comfort capability with these multi-zone hybrid mini split solutions. This multi-zone model is offered in two different capacities, a 24,000 BTU and a 36,000 BTU. And apologies, I breezed through it on the last slide, but for those of you that are more familiar with tonnage as it relates to heating or cooling, every ton is 12,000 BTUs of heating or cooling capability. So that 24K is equivalent to a 2-ton, that 36K is equivalent to a 3-ton traditional HVAC system. Now, what these multi-zones enable you to do is heat or cool multiple zones in that home. Depending on the model, you can cool up or heat up to 4 zones in that customer's home. And that really unlocks, like I said, true whole home comfort capabilities, where you can now give climate comfort and climate control for up to 2,000 square feet of a customer's home reliably, especially in some more mild climates. Now, one of the implications of having that multi-zone capability is you are going to have multiple indoor units or air handlers that you will have to specify with this equipment. And generally that air handler is specified based on the targeted heating the targeted size of the area heated or cooled and supported by that air handler. We are offering air handlers in 3 different capacities with these multi-zone models, a 12,000 BTU, an 18,000 BTU, and a 24,000 BTU model. You are going to find pretty clear guidance as far as supported room size for air handlers of that size in our documentation and also online through other resources. However, I always do recommend that you perform a true heat load calculation when sizing those air handlers for the best results. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation here, but especially if you're in a unique application case, a heat load calculation is going to be the best means of sizing those air handlers. So this does give you some nice back of the envelope guidance here. Like our previous single zone models, these are designed for very efficient and flexible operation, both that heating and cooling available, very high efficiencies, over 22 SEER2 as far as cooling capabilities, and over 4, rating of 4 for the coefficient of performance on the heating capabilities. Both those are very high. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. These units, like the previous hybrid models, can run on a variety of power sources with MPPTs integrated to give you that direct DC input for these models and enable them to run directly off of that solar power when the conditions are necessary, either to, again, reduce consumption from the utility or give you that added resiliency if the utility is not present for whatever reason. And then didn't mention it on our single zone units, but worth mentioning for both of these classes of models, these are really built to enable installation. These come with pre-charged line sets and quick connections, which enable you to go ahead and install these units with no specialized tools or specialized equipment. You won't have to pull a vacuum. You won't have to be able to charge the unit with refrigerant, which does require specialized tools and competencies. These are designed for a DIY customer base. So if you are a installer of energy storage systems, you are going to have all of the competencies and capabilities to install these units confidently and with a lot of success. We've seen a lot of customers who have added these to their offerings and had a lot of success in having this become a part of their energy storage story and a part of the energy efficiency solution that they're offering customers. And the second unit that we were excited to launch last week is our hybrid window unit. Now, this unit's a little different than our multi-zone mini split heat pumps in that this is only going to provide cooling capability in the locations in which it is installed. However, like those other models, what it does offer is the ability to run on multiple power sources and from a variety of different inputs. So again, this unit is going to come with MPPTs directly integrated with that ability to go ahead and integrate solar directly into it. It is going to offer 1 ton of cooling only capability, or 12,000 BTUs. So again, support for a room of about up to 600 square feet is going to be something you're going to have a lot of success with. And it's really going to increase the resiliency of the locations where this unit is installed by, again, offering that very, very efficient cooling capability at a very high SEER rating, CEER in this instance, which is a window unit specification, to, again, reduce your reliance on any AC source coming in and then use less power when you are running on those AC sources. So this is a really great solution, incredibly easy to install. You can see from the image here, this actually uses a 120 volt standard outlet to go ahead and plug in. So any area where you have a single or double hung window where you want to go ahead and add some cooling capability, this unit can be installed as long as you have a 120 volt outlet there to easily bring cooling capability, and you can really increase that resiliency by leveraging that direct DC input with those integrated MPPTs with this unit. So this is something I'm really excited to see. And again, I think just really expands and becomes, for lack of a better term, a bit of a gateway drug as it relates to starting to offer climate solutions as a part of your business and as a part of your value proposition to, again, not only give those customers energy savings and energy resilience, but now some energy efficiency as a part of that package, and really ensure that they can get the performance that they want to see from the solution. Now, as promised, just to define some of these efficiency metrics for you and give you some context as far as how these relate to EG4 models. I didn't want to breeze through these, and apologies, maybe we should have gone ahead and defined these before we jump into talking about some of the units. But the SEER rating that you heard us talk about as related to mini splits stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Rating. This is a measure of cooling efficiency and accounts for different seasonal changes in climate zones that you do see around the country. COP, coefficient of performance, is a ratio that defines the output energy to the input energy that a unit receives, and it's very common in heat pump evaluation. As I was learning about COP, I was actually shocked to find, again, this is a ratio of output energy to input energy. So when you have a COP greater than 1, you are actually heating a zone with more energy than what you put into that unit to generate that heat. It's a really, really impressive thing that heat pump technology is able to pull off. For example, a COP on like a resistive heater would be a 1. So to see a COP greater than 1 means you're incredibly efficient with your operation. And then finally, CEER, Combined Energy Efficiency Rating, is a cooling efficiency rating that's primarily used for window units. Now, again, for those of you that, like me, aren't necessarily experts in climate control solutions, these different ratings may be a bit ambiguous. And so I did go ahead and put kind of what's considered best in class for some of these ratings. So you can see SEER 2, 15 plus is a modern standard that you see a lot of these units wanting to achieve as a good result. A high COP is considered 3 plus, and a high CEER is 12.5 plus. And on that next line, you can see what we've been able to go ahead and achieve with these models from EG4. And you can see each one is well above what's considered good performance and really starts getting into really, really good performance on all of these units. So again, a very, very efficient solution set that you can have confidence in deploying to, again, not only offer that customer some resilience, but some efficiency to go with it, to really juice those savings and to ensure that that resilience is even more effective in a grid down scenario. With that, I'm going to turn it over to John here, and he's going to talk a little bit more about using these solutions as a part of your business.
Thanks, Dylan. Excellent overview there on our products. Couldn't think of anyone better to do it in the world than you. One of the things that makes me so passionate about our HVAC and climate solutions product lineup is the fact that it is tailored to originally what was the DIY market, but now we're seeing more and more professional EPCs and installers adopt this product into their portfolio. Why I think it's important to look at a product like this is we've seen, especially across the residential landscape, primarily in the US, but we've seen a dramatic shift in the way that we do business, especially leading into 2026 here. The 30% ITC tax credit was changed completely and is now no more. We have seen a tighter market, and we've also seen increased competitiveness because the market is tighter. What I tend to find is that installers that are able to add additional packages into their line card when they're sitting with a homeowner at the kitchen table, whether it be sitting with the homeowner at the kitchen table themselves or through one of their sales organizations, it really shifts the conversation away from just simply trying to compete with your competitors or peers operating in your market to offering something different and additional that changes the conversation away from, I'm just simply here to sell you solar or sell you a battery system. I'm actually here to improve the overall efficiency of your home. Carrying that tone with you and having a product lineup and being able to install these products to back that up really changes the narrative. It shifts the conversation completely because odds are your competitors are not installing this. And our climate control solutions are really groundbreaking. So it gives you a massive edge or leg up on your competition. When we look at why climate control and maybe why this solution makes so much sense, well, where does most of our load come from within the home? Where does most of our energy demand come from? Where are we using most of our power, whether it be from the grid when we're grid tied, or maybe from our battery system if we're living off grid, or we're in a grid outage situation? The data here is very clear. EAI is obviously the Energy Information Administration, and they are the pinnacle, the government trusted, and I understand some of that could be subject to discussion itself, whether or not we trust the government. But I will tell you, this data is pretty accurate. Most of your energy demand is going to come from your HVAC, right? And so when we take a look at, I'm myself living in Texas in my home here today. It's a very hot state. This is not a oversized home. It's a regular house in middle America. And we have two 510 AC units. And I can tell you with conviction, because I experience it and I live it, that they use a lot of energy. And it breaks out to be about 50% of our total consumption is really derived from our HVAC system. So again, including this product into your lineup, adding it onto your line card, adding it onto some of your digital solar sales tools, when you go to quote the customer, it really changes the narrative. It repositions EPCs and installers as a full energy ecosystem provider and a full energy ecosystem expert. all the way from adding PV to your roof, using products in our lineup like our Grid Boss, which can provide load shedding and load control across those 4 smart loads that it includes, and then tying into other parts of our ecosystem like our HVAC or our mini split product lineup that are capable of being leveraged on both the AC alternating current or DC direct current platform by way of PV directly into someone's home. So it increases a home's efficiency. It allows you to deliver the same performance for far less. And then obviously, this is a key factor. We do know that, especially on the residential space, being EPCs and installers, you all live in a world where cancellation rates can be pretty high. It is just part and parcel to the business. It's a nature of the business. The HVAC lineup typically requires far less jurisdictional hoops to jump through. There's plan set and permit packets that are typically not required. In some cases, they may be, but it allows you to add equipment to the home very, very quickly. And you can go out and deploy this equipment while you're waiting on some of your additional plan sets or soft permitting things to come through. So it allows you to expand your business, but also lead to a higher closed install rate, which is really, really important. That helps you guys stay profitable and obviously keep your revenue. Unlocking energy savings, this is this is where the magic happens with our HVAC or our mini split lineup. Our hybrid climate solutions help you unlock savings through 3 primary mechanisms. Number 1, direct DC power. So let's take a look at what that really looks like. You're able to offset your utility consumption by directly running off of DC power through that solar array. So if we have, depending on where we are in the world, right? Obviously, sun hours are going to look very different in, let's say, northern Michigan than they will here in Texas. But give or take for the bulk majority of the country, you're going to have sufficient sun hours to be able to power one of these units and heat or cool parts of your home or all of your home or your cabin or your garage or your pole barn. You'll be able to heat or cool those areas depending on your specific configuration during the daytime, essentially completely off grid. You're not pulling from the grid, so that's reducing your costs significantly. And if used properly, we saw the data on previous slides before, it could be up to 50% of your overall consumption that you're reducing. Could be, in some cases, 50% of someone's utility bill that by installing this equipment, you are saving them. So it gives you that, on average, 8 hours of essentially free climate control from a very small PV array. It also gives you the ability to have improved efficiency. So you can have traditional 3, 4, or 5 ton central heating and air conditioning units on the side of a home, but you can also add these units to improve efficiency across the home. I know for certain that however my house was built, and our house was built in the mid 80s, obviously it's been a long time since it was originally built, and redesigning the home is really not cost effective. The cost of adding additional insulation or just doing an overall, remodeling of your home can be incredibly cost prohibitive. I know for a fact that my wife, her office, which is upstairs, it tends to get very hot in there, especially in the summertime. One of the things that we've obviously considered and plan to do very shortly here is to add a mini split to that room. And so now we're not overusing the 5-ton air conditioning unit on the side of the home to try and keep one area cool when maybe the rest of the home might not need that. Naturally, mini split units are more efficient, but we're also, again, improving the overall efficiency of our home and our lifestyle. So it's a really, really cool way that we can go about deploying this into a customer's home. And you can add a unit and not even touch the thermostat, because that additional cooling provided will automatically regulate the temperature across the home, thus not necessitating the need for the thermostat to actually kick on and start the outdoor units. So it decreases consumption overall by moving that airflow and that cooling or heating capacity to a more efficient unit. And then part and parcel to what I had mentioned earlier is, targeted climate control. Again, my wife's office is very, very warm in the summertime, and it does get cool in the wintertime. If I'm spending a lot of time up there, I know certainly I would want to keep it cooler, because down here on the first floor, I'm chilly right now. We might want to regulate things a little bit differently, rather than expending all the energy and spending all the money to run those outdoor 5-ton AC units to cool or heat the entire home. So it gives you that targeted zone control, if you will. Again, direct DC power, kind of some of the things that I mentioned earlier. You power your EG4 mini splits directly from the sun. That will preserve your battery life in the event of a reduced capacity on your battery for whatever reason that may be. It will also help you or prevent you from buying that electricity from the grid. Again, it's coming straight from that DC array. You can leverage an AC limiter function to ensure that you are limiting your AC usage if you do have this tied into an alternating current power source. And then you can pair it with the EG4 Smart Port to run only under certain product or state of charge scenarios, as I had mentioned earlier with our Grid Boss. So it's a really cool piece of technology when you think about including it in the existing EG4 ecosystem. And it's just part of the reason why it makes sense. If you're going to be installing EG4 inverters and batteries, it's probably a good idea to sit down with a homeowner and say, hey, we can also install this for you as well. If I'm a solar installer, it's certainly something I'm looking at. When we look at efficiency retrofits, kind of diving into this a little bit further, we'll see that HVAC solutions installed pre-2023 can have a SEER rating as low as 13 or less than 12.5 SEER 2. That means that those units are wildly inefficient in comparison to our mini split units. And we do know that adding a new 3-ton, 4-ton, or 5-ton outdoor central home AC unit can be incredibly cost prohibitive. I think it's also worth to note that a lot of solar contracts are sold by way of financing. This is a really low cost thing to add into a solar financing contract and to add it into your line card when you're building out that proposal. Someone may be saying, hey, I really want to go solar, but we also have a very inefficient AC unit. Financing for some of those solutions may not be as readily available. So this is a really neat thing that you can do here that will save you a dramatic amount of money per year. So moving to a 21 plus SEER 2 unit can save you thousands over the life of the system. And then again, the coefficient of performance greater than 3. EG4 mini splits are over 300% more efficient than a traditional furnace. So for those heating scenarios, it increases your efficiency dramatically. Just taking a look at some of the numbers here, a 39% savings per year at 5 years, $1,832, at 10 years, $3,665, and then at 15 years, over $5,000 saved. This is something that's, and Dylan did put the calculator in there. This is something that I would be showing a homeowner and explaining to them, hey, We're not just here, again, we're not just here to sell you solar and a battery. We're here to actually improve the efficiency of your home and really improve the quality of life here. Targeted cooling, mini splits can be deployed strategically to deliver comfort in specific zones, as we had mentioned earlier. It not just works for some of the scenarios that I had laid out earlier regarding, my wife's very hot office. It also works in places like a garage. It works in places like a pole barn. It works in off-grid cabins. It works in a lot of different areas. I know if I certainly don't have the space to do it, but maybe someday my dream is to have a pole barn with, as my wife would call it, a man cave. I probably wouldn't be looking at adding a 4-ton or a 5-ton AC unit there. I would certainly be looking at a mini split solution to be able to heat or cool that area. It's just going to be more efficient. And again, will also be a huge cost savings attribute there. So when you could save over 50% of your consumption, I think it's a no-brainer at that point. And again, something we should be introducing to our customer base. When adding to central air, avoid double cooling when pairing central air with a mini split by using a smart thermostat with room sensors and timed control profiles. Dylan has a photo of the Ecobee thermostat here. Great product. But I will say this is a really wise way to go about it. Utilizing other tools, tips, and tricks to be able to improve the overall efficiency of the home are really powerful. And obviously, when you have that mini split added to, let's say, a bedroom or to a downstairs kitchen area or simply to a garage, whatever it may be, you can control specific targeted climate control zones and really further improve the efficiency by not running that central air unit all the time. So it gives you increased resilience. You have multiple power sources. And again, I had mentioned off-grid cabins, no grid required. Improved efficiency overall. So you get far less consumption from either your battery array or from the grid. And then you have targeted heating or cooling zones in emergency situations. We know that after catastrophic storms, the heat index because of humidity can rise dramatically. You probably want to make sure that you're not sweating your butt off, so to speak, in an area where you might have been impacted by a severe storm such as a hurricane. This can run entirely off grid and give you that quality of life that, quite frankly, we all expect nowadays. 83% of power outages are still weather related, and the number of outages has increased by 78% between 2011 and 2021. After storms, the sky is often clear and temperatures can be extreme, like I mentioned earlier. I certainly don't want to live in a sauna. I would certainly want to have a climate controlled area after a storm like this, and being able to operate such a system off grid, especially when paired with an EG4 inverter and battery system and our grid boss, it's going to be a game-changing solution. And again, something that your competitors might not be offering. So that's why we encourage it. No interconnection required. You're obviously not selling back to the grid. So the EG4 mini splits are UL 1741 compliant as standalone equipment. Permitting may be required in some areas, but it is typically much more streamlined. And again, what we had mentioned earlier, faster deployment, more closed sales. The way that I might consider looking at this is, when you first go to close a solar contract, you typically have to go back to perform a site survey. Hey, during that site survey is probably an amazing time to schedule a quick installation of your EG4 mini split system. we know that jurisdictionally dependent and depending on where you live and where you're installing, it can take anywhere from, on the good side of things, 15 days, and on the really bad side, upwards of 90 days until you have interconnection, and then obviously once installed, subsequently PTO. Putting this unit on secures your solar contract. Putting it on early is just going to help you secure more business and obviously earn more customers. And trust me, with something like this, it's standout. It's doing something different than the rest of your competition will be doing. And I think many of your customers will be very happy to have a solution like this. So one of the things that we do get a lot of questions on, especially as we've talked to professional EPCs and installers about this product, is, hey, this is my first time doing a mini split installation. What are the key things that we need to look out for when installing these products? So number one is unit sizing. Units should be sized according to the heat load calculation of the area controlled. The recommended room size, as you can see on this screen, is certainly something to follow. What I will also say is that there is a heat load calculation. If you're a solar EPC or an installer, you may not really know exactly what that is. There are lots of tools out there on the internet. There's a heat load calculation calculator. So there's a lot of great tools that exist to help you really put in the correct design for these units. For any of your sales organizations or your salespeople that might be going to sell these products, is always good to run them through some training on unit sizing so that they can put on the initial contract the correct size, air handler size for that customer. The single zone supports, again, one air handler, and a multi-zone, either that 2-ton or 3-ton, or that 24,000 BTU or that 36,000 BTU. They will support 3 to 4 air handlers. Line sets. So EG4 now offers pre-charged R32 line sets in 2 lengths, 16 feet and 26 feet. Some of you that may have installed this product in the past, you will see 2 things that stand out here. One, the refrigerant is different. The older refrigerant was R410A. The newer compliant refrigerant is R32. You'll also notice that in the past, the line sets were not pre-charged. These line sets are now pre-charged. It was the unit itself that was pre-charged, and you would introduce refrigerant into it. These line sets are pre-charged, further adding to ease of installation. The single zone units ship standard with a 16-foot line and a 30-foot communication cable. And then additional refrigeration and communication lines can be ordered as needed. So contacting your distributor, you will see that we have additional line sets available for you to purchase through your distributor. Multi-zone units. All line sets and communication cables for the multi-zone are offered separately. That's because the multi-zone units, you can install multiple head configurations. So you will order those line sets separately, and then all lines to support each handler are specified and ordered to spec. Again, work with your distributor on any packages that you need for your specific configuration that you're going to go ahead and install. On multi-zone line sets, you will see in this diagram here, pardon me, that you would be able to run line sets directly to the outdoor unit, or what I call the condenser unit, directly into the air handler or the cassette. And you will also be able to parallel those units together. One other thing to note here, the line sets, you can leverage multiple line sets up to a total of 75 feet without the need to add additional refrigerant. Line sets, diving into them a little bit further, and the last thing that I really think it's important to mention here, no specialized tools are technically required. However, there is something called an HVAC torque wrench. It is an open-ended adjustable torque wrench. Trust me, I bought one when I first got to EG4, just to figure out how this stuff all works. I bought one. I wanted to see how the tool worked. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy a digital HVAC torque wrench. Again, if you're not in the HVAC business, you might not have seen this before, but it's an open-ended adjustable torque wrench that you can use to connect the line sets. The torque spec is represented in the manual of between 19 and 22 foot-pounds on those brass fittings. They are brass fittings. Over-speccing the torque or over-torquing beyond the 22 foot-pound spec will cause cracking, so always be careful of that because they are brass connections. And then obviously under tightening or torquing not to spec would cause a refrigerant leak. So this is one area that we always encourage people to be a little bit more sensitive with and make sure that you have the correct tool to do the job here. Other tips, outdoor unit placement matters. Elevate the outdoor unit off ground. Obviously, that is going to increase efficiency and make sure that foreign material or debris does not get inside of the unit. Anything such as like a mud dauber or something that builds a nest on those fan blades can impact the performance of the unit. So it is something to be sensitive to. You also want to make sure that you can install these units in shade where possible. So, or on, let's say, the north side of the home, maybe the home with the least amount of sunlight. That's obviously also going to increase the overall efficiency of your unit. When in doubt, add more solar. Panels are often rated at 80% or less of the nameplate rating on that solar panel. There are specific maximum DC PV array inputs listed on the spec sheet for each unit. For a 1100 watt input of a 12K or a 1-ton unit, a 1600 watt array would be recommended. And that's really just about 4, and you can go even a little bit higher to up to maybe 400 watt panels, give or take. So when in doubt, add more solar. That will ensure that the unit stays operative on DC power as much as possible. And then obviously, heat load calculations are important. Recommended room sizes assume certain conditions. The more extreme environments should have a load calculation performed. So if you're putting it in an area like a garage that may not be properly insulated, you're going to want to make sure that you are doing a heat load calculation. And again, there are lots of available tools on websites that are pretty reputable to be able to give you a pretty fair and honest heat load calculation. With that said, I think we kind of breezed through this, but we do want to open it up for any questions that our attendees may have. Again, we do have questions inside of the questions function. And I know there's been a lot of chatter on the chat. So we are here to kind of dive into some of those things. Let's see here. And Dylan, great to see some of the folks from Puerto Rico, St. Croix.
Yeah, John, I think, you know, when I look at these solutions, especially for those areas like a Puerto Rico, St. Croix, like I said, Gulf Coast, I live in Houston, Texas. This hits close to home to me because I've lived through multiple hurricanes where the power was out for 4, 5, 6+ days. Certainly some of our friends, especially in Puerto Rico, have experienced much worse. And it's hurricane season, it's summertime, it's warm. You start to really understand how critical of a load that climate control can be under those scenarios. And so I think having a designated cool zone with a product like this is incredibly important, even if that just means during the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. window, you're able to cool a designated portion of the home. Not to be melodramatic, but that could literally be a lifesaver for some people. Certainly, it's going to greatly increase the livability of the space and the ability to not have to leave and go seek shelter somewhere else.
Absolutely. And yeah, I saw some of these previous questions. We do have, yeah, great. No, we have multiple distributors on the island of Puerto Rico. I actually just got back from there myself last week, and there was we met with a lot of installers who are currently using the mini split products. Oh, the Robin has a question on how many kilowatt of a system for each unit is recommended to run on its own. For the 1-ton unit, we do recommend like about a 1.6 to a 2 kilowatt or a 2.2 maximum kilowatt array. A little bit higher on the 2-ton unit or the 24K single zone unit. About 2.6 to 2.8 kilowatt is going to give you more than enough PV to operate safely. And you will see that some of our distributors have these kits packaged with solar panels already included. Your local distributor would always recommend kind of suggesting to your local distributor or placing an order with them for kind of a similar sized kit. Moving on to the multi-zone mini splits, recommend like a max PV input of 3,200 watts or 3.2 kilowatt for the 24K unit, and then recommend a max PV input of about 5,000 watts or 5 kilowatt for that 3-ton unit. Again, at that point, that's a pretty large, sizable unit. But when you start to consider the overall efficiency, the fact that you're cooling up to 4 zones, that's pretty much an entire home that you're providing heating and cooling function for, all things considered, on as little as a 5 kilowatt solar array. And it is going to be dependent on the sun hours that you have, the specific climate that you live in. But those are some safe estimates and some safe numbers to give you guys. And yeah, I see in the chat here, we had some folks mention Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Obviously, that was very devastating, and obviously leaves a legacy on the island. I do wish we had these products available at that time. I know it was a little pre-EG4, but obviously you want to do all that you can to kind of put people in a good position should those storms ever occur again, and providing something like this to your customers is a really good solution for that.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we got one more question that popped up. Well, Joel, we might have breezed through this rather quickly, but I think it's good content nonetheless. Anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think, again, stick around for the next couple minutes here if there's any last lingering questions about the product itself. Certainly, if you're interested in acquiring one of these solutions, we have a number of distribution partners who do stock these products, and you can find those on EG4electronics.com. We have our partners listed and their websites linked there. Certainly, they are more than willing to have a discussion about these solutions. And if you're looking to learn more, we have a phenomenal sales team headed by John here and a technical sales team who can give some additional guidance on helping you to spec and install these solutions. But I think you said it really well, John. I think this is a phenomenal product to add to your line card as an installer to increase your value that you're bringing to a customer. And the way I look at it is if we're able to go in and have an honest conversation and say, hey, listen, I would prefer to sell you more batteries. I'd prefer to sell you a bigger inverter. I make more money that way, but this is a better solution. That builds a lot of trust, a lot of faith in you as an installer, and somebody that's trying to do right by the customer. So as long as we're able to keep that frame of mind first and foremost, I think it's going to pay dividends on the back end to add something like this to the line card, and again deliver the customer the best solution that you can. And I think there's a lot of benefits this brings that you otherwise are going to miss out on if you're just coming to the table with an energy storage solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I to add to that, I think you're exactly right. Of course, we all want to sell more batteries. We want to sell more inverters. We want to sell bigger systems, but all of your competitors are trying to do that. And obviously to date, not everyone is selling the EG4 mini split solution with their, on their line card with their solar package. This really gives you a differentiation. It sets the tone that, hey, we as an installer are different. So I would much rather have 2 batteries, 1 inverter, and get that sale plus a mini split than try and tack on 4 batteries. At least you've got that business. So a win is a win. We'll say last thing I want to mention, just talk about breaker sizes real quick on the AC wiring. On the 1-ton unit, that's obviously the 12,000 BTU or the 12K AC/DC mini split. That is a 120 volt solution. So you'd utilize a 15 amp breaker in the load center. The 24K or the 2-ton unit is a 12240. So you would utilize a 20 amp breaker. And then for the multi-zone mini splits, you would use a 25 amp breaker. And then for the multi-zone mini splits, the 36K, you would use a 30 amp breaker. And those are listed out on our spec sheets. And also there's some detailed graphics inside of the manual. The wiring and the configuration is very, very straightforward and very simple. Just above the MC4 connectors built into the AC/DC mini split unit is the wire box. So it is a very simple, usually a very straightforward conduit run, along with conductors from the load center. One other tip and trick is probably not a bad idea to add some type of a small surge protector inside of that junction box that's wired for the outside unit. I have heard that that's always a best practice, but certainly not required. So again, to Dylan's point, depending on what market you're in, reach out to your regional sales manager from EG4, reach out to your distributor, or reach out to your technical account manager on our technical sales team. I would say, especially our technical sales team, those guys are going to be the key experts in helping you become successful with this product And we want to go out and train more installers on these products. We want to be there with you in person where we can and help you grow your business with EG4 Hybrid Mini Split Climate Control Solutions.
Thanks, John. Great job. I appreciate everybody that showed up. Hope it was valuable. Please go ahead and leave us some feedback. Let us know what you liked, where you'd like to learn more, some areas that we can improve. We'll certainly bake that into future sessions here that we hold on EG4 Solutions. Hope everybody has a nice rest of your Monday, and we'll see you on the next one.